We could do anything. But what you gonna do for it? How you gonna do for it?
Welcome to Data-Driven Sports Betting. I'm A-Train Bets and I use my brain to make bets. And in this video, we're going to do another one of our strategy videos today. And what we do in these is I'm going to take a little bit more time than I typically would on my live stream to go through just coming from the station, looking at different plays and whether or not we would make them and why, and some of the things that we're going to factor in on evaluating these plays and highlighting some of the features that we have in A-Train Station at the same time, but really making sure that you can understand, here's why I might make this decision or what I would be thinking about. And more importantly than what I would do is you understanding how you might break it down and make the decision the next time you see something like this. And that's, I think, the most important part of this series. So let's get after it. We're going to start here with one that on the surface is a pretty straightforward play, but it has one thing about it that I wanted to highlight today. So in this case, we have a pretty typical, it's a Navy midshipman, Bucknell Bison, so college basketball on a mainline spread, Navy midshipman plus 2.5, Bucknell Bison minus 2.5. We're looking here at an ESPN bet or Hard Rock bet of plus 100. Now, what I like about this, and the reason why I want to point it out, is this is a situation where we just have bet online. So we often use a bet online plus Pinnacle strategy. We weight them each one, and then we look at the situation. We say, okay, what can the sharp books lines tell us about this and where we might find an edge? So we see the nature of this. We have a market that is kind of all over the place. I mean, look at this. Not much line movement in the market. Everybody's kind of just set their prices. But the one thing that I wanted to point out, this price that we're going to get is exactly plus 100. What does that mean? The way ESPN Bet and Hard Rock Bet are pricing this is that their no vig line here is going to be somewhere in this range between 100 and minus 120. It's going to be sitting, the no vig line is going to be at minus 110, right? The math gets pretty straightforward here. And their no vig line is here. So they're saying that they believe that the Bucknell Bison have a better chance of winning this minus 2.5 spread bet than the Navy midshipman. But our bet online, our sharp book, tells us, hey, we actually believe that the Navy midshipmen here are 51% favorites to the 48.9% favorites with the rounding. That's where Bet Online has said, if you can do better than minus 104.4, and in this case we get to plus 100, we're seeing, hey, this is ESPN Bet and Hard Rock Bet priced at pure coin flip on this side of the market, but we're like, hey, we got a 51% chance of winning. If you've heard me talk about our coin flip example, where if you were able to get a coin flip but get paid at 51% as opposed to 50%, that's the scenario that we're talking about here. It's just skewed a little bit, is that we actually have a better chance of winning the coin flip. We have a 51% chance of winning that coin flip, and we're getting priced like it's a 50-50. It's the same basic premise, is that our percentage here is better. So this is why positive EV betting works, is we're getting 50-50 odds, but we have a better chance. So this one, the coin is weighted to our side, and because of that, we're going to have a long-term profit. So just because this number landed right there, I thought would be a useful example to see coin flip pricing, better odds of winning. That is exactly why positive EV betting works. Now, most of the time, the numbers aren't nearly so clean. And this is one where I thought it would be worth highlighting to help you wrap your head around the percentages and what these are. And that's why we have these percentages now on our bet market detail screen, is that we have the ability to say, okay, we're perceiving based on our sharp book, Navy midshipman here, 51% chance of winning. Bucknell Bison, 48% chance of winning. We're getting a price that's better than that. Next up, this one, football game for Sunday. So we're coming up on NFC Championship weekend. We're looking at Kansas City Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens. We are looking for Odell Beckham Jr. receptions. So there's a couple things to think about this, right? So first off, we have Bet Online and Pinnacle. And if you know, I prefer Bet Online for player props and I prefer Pinnacle for non-player props. In this case, if we go and look at what just Bet Online has, we have 3.15% for Odell Beckham Jr. receptions under 1.5, where when they were combined, it was 3.69. So they're both in the same area. We've seen a decent amount of market movement, and you see Unibet and Bet Rivers, who are both can be back-end books. They are both significantly off the rest of this market, which is a fairly deep market full of pretty good sized anyway, not good necessarily, good sized sportsbook operators. So what we have here is Odell Beckham Jr. receptions under 1.5, but there's something else to consider. And that is this game doesn't happen till Sunday. So the thing to think about is, do I want to make this play now? What could happen between now and Sunday? Is it more or less likely that this number gets better by Sunday? And I don't know that I have an answer for you on this one. Variance in the news and the injuries and all that stuff can kind of half and half work for you or against you. The longer period you have, we're recording this on Wednesday, the longer the period you have until the game event, the more subject to different things happening you'll be. So you have to ask yourself, do I think that the true likelihood of Odell Beckham Jr. receptions under 1.5 will get better or worse than a plus 170 for me by Sunday? My argument would be in this kind of market where we see fairly decent movement, but this number in particular going outside of the trading range that we've seen at most of the other books, my argument would be if you like this price now's the time to take it. That's how I would interpret it. I like that BetOnline and Pinnacle have very similar numbers. I like that this falls outside of the typical trading range for pretty much all the other books. I think we're getting a good deal here on something that is certainly an underdog play. We would expect Odell Beckham Jr. to get more than 1.5 receptions. That'll happen 61.5% of the time, according to our Novig lines here. But it's still something that we're getting a good enough price that 10 points of value on top of the Novig line, I think is hard to pass up. So this is one that if you can play at Bet Rivers or Unibet, this is one that I would probably consider playing myself. But hopefully the analysis helps you think about things in a little bit different way, especially for something that happens a little bit further from now. Here's another one. We got Minnesota Timberwolves and Washington Wizards. So this one, we've got Mike Conley threes, and we're seeing ESPN Bet or PointsBet Australia. Mike Conley threes under 2.5. And in this case, this is a situation where, again, I'm looking at BetOnline and Pinnacle both, and I see good line movement to the right for both of them. That's good. Their numbers are fairly common, but BetOnline, if I go to BetOnline and see what do they have here, when I see BetOnline, their number has moved pretty far to the right compared to even Pinnacle, and that increases our perceived positive EV up to 4.13. So what was a good play at 2.7? If you're buying in BetOnline's line movement here, you're saying, wow, this is an even better play. I'm backing up the truck on this one. And that's exactly the kind of thing that you might perceive. Now, again, we like that it's an under. The other thing that makes me really love this play is that it's a favorite. So this is something that in positive EV betting, you don't see as often. A lot of times we're going to have losing win-loss records in our positive EV betting because we're playing a lot of underdogs. Just like we've talked about earlier in this particular video, we're looking at underdog plays that are less likely to win than they are paying for. So they're less likely to win than 50-50, but they're paying so much more that it's worth it to play it. Right? That's what's going to happen for us because we know the public favors favorites most of the time. So when we do get an opportunity to play on a favorite, even though it's an under, which we also know the public doesn't tend to like the unders, but when it's a favorite on the under, now we're like, okay, good. That helps it gives us a nice little diversification when we're playing so many unders. That's why we highlight the favorites with the light blue so it pops a little bit more. That's very intentional. So when that pops, you're like, oh, wow, I like when I can play a favorite here. Let's go get it. Because then you have a higher degree of likelihood of winning. In this case, a 59% chance of winning this bet. We love that. So we like when we have a good chance of winning as long as we're getting a good price for it too. So that's the situation here. And when you look at BetOnline alone, that 4%, you definitely want to be making this play as far as I'm concerned. This is one where I'm like, yep, I'm in. So let's go get it. Next, finally, we're going to look at this Arkansas Razorbacks and Ole Miss Rebels. Here's a situation where we are not talking about a spread bet or even a player prop at all. This is old school money line bet. And in this case, we have BetOnline and Pinnacle. Everybody in this market seems to have pretty low hold, which is what you're typically going to find on non-player props. You're going to see fairly low holds and then some others that just do what they want, go a little bit higher on that. All right. So in this case, what we do see though is BetMGM is pretty substantially off the rest of the market here. So that's our first thing that we're seeing in a very deep market. Okay. If I look at Pinnacle, like I've said in the past, Pinnacle is going to be the book I'm going to favor from a sharpness perspective on non-player props. When I see that, again, I see, oh, BetMGM's even better, 3.75 versus 2.41. That's another little extra weight on that side of the scale. It's like, I'm liking this a little bit more than I did. And I can go back to my main line where I'm looking at both sharp books because BetOnline is not complete fools when it comes to non-player props. So we're looking at it all. We're assessing the market entirely. We have an open mind. We're curious about what is the data trying to tell us here. Curiosity, hugely important attribute of how you approach sharp sports betting. So in this case, we're saying, well, plus 220, that's a pretty good number for something that's expected to win 32% of the time. And so we're interested in this. And that's probably where I'm landed on this, is that we just see this is kind of a classic outlier in a very deep market, and to be getting over 2% or even over 3% if we're looking at Pinnacle alone here, 3.75%, when we're doing that and we see that much value on something with this many prices and this deep of a market, we're getting pretty excited about this. So straight up money line, take in Arkansas Razorbacks at BetMGM. If you go place this bet at BetMGM, go do it. And so this is where this whole theme of the show has been looking at these percentages, understanding some of the differences in how we might assess a market, and realizing that on something this deep, you can get 2-3%. Get going. When you see BetOnline and Pinnacle and the 3 and 4% range on these non-player props, go get it. So these are ones that I have to really push towards and recognize these are kind of core to our sharp sports betting strategy. And that's where, like, compared to the previous play where we're excited to do a favorite, this one is more of a classic, hey, we're going to take the dog and we're going to enjoy this. This is the other thing too, and I'll leave you with this thought, is it's really nice to sometimes just play the game, to just play the game winner and be able to sit down. Like if you're going to go and watch this game tonight, 8:00, and watch Arkansas and Ole Miss, you know who you're rooting for. You don't have to do any math and you can have a lot of fun with it. So sometimes it's nice to just back into these really fun bets that might give you a reason to go watch the game. So that's another thing to just keep in mind, because if you're not thinking about the totality and having fun with the betting, having fun with watching the games or sweating the bets, again, there's a lot of different ways you can make money, but in this hobby, fun is a factor. Fun and interest in enjoying it. Like there's some of you folks would be like, I'll do all the positive EV, I'll do all the market driven analysis, all the data driven analysis, but I'm never ever betting on Michigan. Fine. I get that, right? We're still sports fans. We still enjoy the games. But if you use data and you use tools like A-Train Station to help inform your betting, at the end of the day, you're going to be so much more successful and have a lot more fun than when you're just wasting money betting without data, betting your gut, betting into markets that are designed to take your money. That's no fun for anybody. So do this, learn this, enjoy the hobby, enjoy improving your skills, enjoy thinking about it. That curiosity, huge theme to today's episode. So hopefully you find this useful, and go check out the rest of the content. We do live streams every day. Go through examples like these and going a little bit faster as I'm making my bets. But hopefully by going through some of these examples slower, you'll understand where my mentality is, why we use the tools the way we do, what the tool can do for you, and how you can become a sharper sports bettor as well. And for now, this train is leaving the station. Until next time, save the units for the bros and do your betting like the pros.